Number 15, from Star Trek II The Wrath of Khan, number 1. This one gets the number 15 spot because this one is more opinion than anything else. But enough people commented on it at the time that it probably deserves some mention. 9 years later. I play the long game, as you can see. The movie and comic begin with the Kobayashi Maru simulation. If you've never seen Star Trek II, the concept is that a ship receives a distress call from a damaged freighter inside the neutral zone, and the captain must decide whether to enter the zone to try to rescue them. Doing so, however, brings up a bunch of enemy vessels that will quickly overwhelm and destroy the captain's ship. All of this is from the perspective of those on the bridge of the Enterprise, but not entirely in the comic adaptation, which shows us several exterior shots of the ship. Problem is, in the movie, the bridge is not a bridge, it's a simulator room at Starfleet Training Command. Don't know if that's separate from Starfleet Command itself or Starfleet Academy, but that's what the sign in the background says. And of course, I voiced my critique of the fact that we had these exterior shots showing explosions and destruction of the ship, despite there not being a ship to blow up. However, some balked at this idea, saying that these were shots not from an actual ship, but maybe a simulation for the sake of those watching it happen. And you know what? That's fair. Even in games like Bridge Commander, which has the word bridge in the friggin' title, you can switch to an exterior view of the ship, so that's certainly my mistake for not considering that possibility. However, I would deeply question any instructor who was more concerned about exploding starships instead of on the people they were testing, since the purpose of the Kobayashi Maru simulation is to fail. The destruction of the ship is designed to be guaranteed. Not that that stopped several esteemed captains in Starfleet, but still. As Savick herself put it, this was not an adequate test of her command abilities.
And why not?
Because there was no way to win.
Because it's not about winning. It's about studying the cadet to see how they deal with inevitable failure and death. Why the hell would they be watching the outside of the ship instead of the people they're supposed to be looking at? So yes, I admit, I could be wrong here. But the alternative is terrible teachers at Starfleet, and I prefer to just say it's a bad adaptation. Which it is. Number 14, from Asterix the Legionary. Asterix uses a lot of puns and wordplay in its names. And while I normally pride myself on seeing these and enjoying them because I love puns, painful or otherwise, I didn't dig deeper into some word choices used. In Asterix the Legionary, Asterix and Obelix have joined the Roman army to search for a guy named Tragicomix, who is conscripted to join up too. He may have been killed in battle with the enemy forces, but he also might have been taken prisoner. They learn that they might discover his fate when a spy returns. A spy going under the codename H2SO4, the chemical formula for sulfuric acid. His real name is Vitriolix. I did not get the joke and figured it made more sense in the original French. No, it makes more sense with the original Latin, because I did not realize that vitriol is another word for sulfuric acid. Yeah, honest to God, I have never heard that before. It's apparently archaic and not really used in that context, just these days going for something bitter and anger-filled and etc. But I guess that really does make sense for its root word and all. And since Asterix is all about that wordplay, naturally a spy named Vitriolix would have a code name that matched it. So, yeah, my mistake there. Also, someone said that Obelix is super strong without the potion because he fell into a cauldron of it at a young age, and that I would have known that had I read the recap page. I checked the recap page for my copy. Not mentioned there. I was right, you were wrong. Just call me NaCl. Number 13, from Bad Rock number 1A. I am not kind to Rob Liefeld's work. For many reasons. One of them is my annoyance at his constant need to invent new characters in almost every single comic he releases. Youngblood would have new characters and new members show up all the damn time, and most of them are just palette swaps of the other boring, uncreative potential ripoffs he's already made. So with Bad Rock number 1A, it was easy for me to assume that the various characters we saw in it, Overlord, Cutthroat, Hellraiser, The Vicious Circle, that all of that crap was just more of the same from him. But as it turns out, no. The Vicious Circle characters, Girth not included, are in fact creations of Eric Larson, having first appeared in Savage Dragon. meaning he's the one who made some really lame random villains. So Rob didn't have a monopoly on that. Okay, I'm being unfair here. It's entirely possible that Larson actually did cool stuff with them. I'm not a Savage Dragon reader, but even I know that that book was better than anything Rob was putting out during the Image days. It is kind of comical, though. It was so easy for me to assume that Rob made them up because of how uninteresting and generic they were. Even Hellraiser and Cutthroat, who have a little more going for them visually than most of Liefeld's creations, could easily be mistaken for some rejected Spawn ripoffs that Rob decided to dredge up for this awful miniseries. I guess my first clue that they weren't actually his creations should have been that they had, like, more complicated outfits than just pouches, guns, and a leotard with only white and some other color on it. Number 12, from Athena number 4. One of the reasons I felt confident about doing this list this time was because we actually have quite a few from this year. Evidence that I am getting progressively worse the longer I keep this charade that I know what I'm talking about going. Still, in the grand scheme of things, a lot of these mistakes are pretty minor, but they are still mistakes. So we saw the conclusion of my reviews of the miniseries Athena, that bizarre attempt to turn the Greek goddess into a superheroine. That was really more concerned about showing off her ass. During it, Athena and Ares had a little conversation about a shootout between two mob groups and their disgust over their weapon choice, while I was criticizing their armor choice. Some were keen to point out videos that said boob-shaped armor wasn't impractical at all. But as I said in that episode, I have seen people who clearly are more knowledgeable about it than me say it is horribly impractical, and I'm not an expert. It's just their arguments were more convincing to me. And trying to point me to giant cod pieces or people who had this stuff made for ceremonial or artisanal reasons is not the same thing as actual stuff meant to see combat. And even if they were, in case you hadn't noticed, people have been incredibly stupid throughout history. Which is what the actual mistake we're talking about today is related to. See, in the comic, Athena and Ares were offended about how cowardly these people were, because they used ranged weapons, and I thought that was silly and stupid. But it turns out I'm the one who matches that description. According to several commenters, in ancient times, archers, slingers, and anyone who utilized ranged weaponry were indeed seen as more cowardly and less honorable. In fact, Paris in the Odyssey was depicted as an archer because it was an easy shorthand for readers to see that he was a douchebag. As such, from the perspective of cultural history, they probably would see this fight as dishonorable and pathetic. However, I do still have to question why the gods of war and strategy would not see the benefit of ranged weapons and not give a crap about honor. Also, for all the talk about honorable battle, their ultimate solution was to just burn everything to the ground. A lot of the people, too. Arson, the truly honorable form of combat. Number 11, from Brave and the Bold, number 28. This is gonna be a minor mistake, but a horrifying one, partially because I did preface my joke. Instead, it reaches inside the plane and snatches out an atomic bomb in its hold before moving off. You know, this might be a thing, I'm never sure about that, but is it wise for bomber planes to just be flying around the middle of the US with an atomic bomb in its hold? I mean, I hate rush hour traffic too, but it seems like overkill. And the answer was yes. Yes, this was totally a thing. Planes just carrying atomic bombs in their hold over US soil were a thing. Pretty much so they'd be ready in case nuclear war was declared. And some accidentally did drop them! Yeah, in 1958, over Mars Bluff, South Carolina, a nuclear bomb was accidentally released when the bombardier was trying to repair the bomb harness and grabbed the emergency release pin. The single most terrifying word in the English language. Oops. Fortunately, the bomb did not have its fissile nuclear core inside of it, so it only caused injuries and property damage and not, you know, an atomic explosion. But there were other incidents of stuff like this. In 1961, a fuel leak caused a B-52 bomber to be abandoned and let it crash, with its bombs getting released and thankfully not exploding, But apparently one of the bombs was seriously close to detonating when 3 of its 4 safety mechanisms failed. When the program for flying these things around ended in 1968, there were apparently dozens, if not hundreds of cases where there were accidents that could have caused catastrophes. And this, my friends, is why safety features and safety protocols exist at all. Mind you, as they realized in 1968, sometimes the safest protocol is to just not do it! Number 10, from Batman/Aliens number 2. So buried in a Mayan temple and cavern, Batman is confronted by a xenomorph hatched from a crocodile. Oh god, I love comic books. And he picks up a weapon long ago discarded in the area. I questioned its authenticity, because it seemed goofy to me to have a sword that just had a bunch of teeth attached to the blade. Well, of course, people were quick to answer that indeed it is authentic. Pre-Columbian Mesoamerican cultures really didn't have much in the way of smelting capability, so their swords were often planks of wood with pieces of obsidian glass shoved into their sides. While they were deadly, they were also apparently pretty fragile. The comments also suggested that the artist was not really drawing it that well, basically making it look like a regular metal sword, but with a few pointy bits glued on. Still, my apologies for not doing research into these things to see how the hell Mayan weaponry worked before I critiqued it. And hey, in the end, regardless of how correct or incorrect I was, gotta give credit for anything that definitely looks like it would have hurt if Batman decided to swing it at you. Number 9. From 15 Things Wrong with Marvel's Civil War. You know, I did the 15 Things Wrong videos, this one and Identity Crisis, because at the time I didn't want to review any good comics, and I felt back then that there was just enough good in them to not do full reviews. Nowadays, I'm willing to do more mixed reviews of good stuff regardless. And boy, I should really just do an actual review of Civil War. Event Comics Month be damned, because as I get older, I realize how much Civil War was frickin' terrible. Never ask me what I think of an MCU film borrowing a crappy comics title. Chances are it'll still be a million times better. The impetus for the Superhero Registration Act of Civil War is in the opening pages of the book, where the New Warriors, filming some kind of superhero reality show, chase down the minor villain Nitro, who uses his explosive powers to blow up a good chunk of Stamford, Connecticut. I questioned how the hell he was so powerful as to be able to do something like that. And it turns out the comics did explain. He was taking mutant growth hormone, or something along those lines, that amplified his powers. So, yeah, I was wrong because this was indeed something that got explained in the event. However, it was not explained in the event miniseries. This was part of a tie-in to Civil War in the pages of Wolverine, because nothing makes your story better than needing footnotes and appendices to explain stuff that seems otherwise nonsensical. Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty minor thing to harp on, but people let me know I was wrong about it. But then again, of course I'm gonna get stuff like that wrong when it's not in the book. This is why Event Comics Month only focuses on the event miniseries and not the tie-ins. Well, that and because if I looked at all the tie-ins to some of these events, the videos would be 8 hours long and extend into the next 3 months as I keep releasing parts. Because the event needs to stand or fall on its own. And Civil War really does not. Number 8, from Hellstar Romina, chapters 4 to 6. This one's kind of unique because it's a mistake I made in the stinger to the episode. In case you don't stick around past the credits, which you should, there's text at the end with more critiques or commentary at the end of said credits. A stinger is a bit afterwards where I put in another joke or whatnot. And in this one, in the far-off future, after planet Romina has devoured the Earth and made it pop like bubblegum, human Romina and the other survivors are sent flying away in their bunker. I noticed that there was this weird object floating in the vacuum of space, and I joked that they can survive if they just grab that cosmic sword right there. But, as commenters pointed out, that's not a sword. That's the cross that the mob were trying to crucify Romina on. So bear in mind, this cross in the story had already survived missiles, a tsunami, lava flows, massive windstorms, gravity changing, and now it survives the destruction of the Earth itself! This thing was put together by a crazed mob in a hurry! The creepy tongue cultist guys apparently were made up of military-employed carpenters to make this friggin' thing so indestructible! Man, they just don't make stuff like they used to in the year 20XX. I stand by what I said. They should just go back and grab it. Something this powerful would be like a friggin' steak and a vampire to Planet Romina. Number 7, from Comic Book Quickies number 8. Comic Book Quickies episodes are very much supposed to be, well, quick, as in they're short and I put them together in a hurry. I just have to find some Hostess fruit pie ads and whatever random short story can be the main focus for a good chunk of the episode. Find a few somewhat amusing bits in the Super Dictionary and go with that. Problem is, sometimes I'm so quick to try to put together an episode that I don't bother to double check that it's something I've already done. The Super Dictionary is weird. Meant for very little kids, it features a bunch of goofy definitions of words by using those words in sentences featuring DC characters. I don't know why the hell a kid needed to know specifically that 40 is made up of 4 tens and that Lex Luthor stole 4 tens worth of cakes, but they did. And that's terrible. So in Comic Book Quickies number 8, we had an appearance by that guy with the hat, a ripoff of another character long dead now, who read off the definition of invisible. Only problem is, he'd already done it. In fact, it was done in the very first Comic Book Quickies episode, and arguably better there. She has made you a person who cannot be seen. Look in the mirror! Look in the mirror. Yeah, I really should keep a running log of every Super Dictionary bit I use in these episodes, so there isn't any repetition. Ironically, repetition is not in the Super Dictionary. Number 6, from World War Hulk. I briefly joked about this in the episode afterwards, and that usually means I won't talk about it in these lists. It's why my inability to distinguish rugby from football isn't on here. I've joked about it enough times that there's really no point in bringing it up again. But there's really no excuse for this. While explaining the backstory that led into World War Hulk, I said that the Hulk went on a rampage that destroyed Los Angeles. But no, he actually destroyed Las Vegas. Hey, easy slip of the tongue, right? The first word sounds similar, it's an easy enough mistake to make. Well, see, it's a little more baffling than that, because during the part where I'm describing this, there's a big "Welcome to Las Vegas" sign right there. It's kinda hard to miss, and yet I did, not only during writing, but during editing as well. Admittedly, I probably would have been lazy about it and just put some text over it to clarify that I spotted the mistake, since I wouldn't have felt like setting up the camera again to re-record the line. I am the Roger Corman of internet reviewers. Sometimes I just don't feel like doing a second take. But at least it would have been some kind of recognition that I had made the mistake at all. But as it stands, no such acknowledgement was given in the episode. Indeed, the viewers at home had to ask how the hell I could have missed that. I have no excuse, I just completely missed it and didn't see it when I should have. It's also another classic example of Linkara versus geography, my true mortal enemy. Watch as they show New York City in a comic, and I somehow mistake it for Branson, Missouri. Number 5, from Action Comics number 775. This is higher on the list than it probably should be, but it's also kind of a missed opportunity that I will take advantage of as a result. So since a lot of you have seen Superman vs. the Elite, or at least watched my review of the comic it was adapted from earlier this year, you are familiar with Manchester Black, the hard-smoking, telekinetic, British asshole leader of the Elite. Dude's a dick and he hates Superman, and I mentioned the Union Jack t-shirt he was wearing. Except, as many people noticed, he's not wearing a shirt. That's actually tattooed on him. Now, admittedly, this is an easy mistake for me to make. There is no dialogue in the comic that indicates that's what's going on. He doesn't take off his jacket at any point, so as far as I knew, that was just a shirt. Still, I did notice the weird coloring on it. There are no black outlines or anything that would indicate it was a shirt. The brighter colors on it were kind of like his hair, which would be a shorthand way of showing this was some unnatural coloring occurring. He also has no visible nipples, which also threw me off track with it, but that's kind of common with a lot of male superheroes depending on the artist. And the thing is, it's kind of goofy. Why just the tattoo? Why not just wear a shirt with the flag on it? It's gotta be cold sometimes, and while the jacket probably helps, an exposed chest is not doing him any favors for his health. Wait a second, does that mean that he's been lecturing this whole time about not caring about borders and nationalities and stuff? While having a friggin' flag tattooed on his chest?
What sort of backwards fucking pageantry is that?
Put on a goddamn shirt, you wanker. You look like a tool. Because you are one, Manchester. Number 4. From the Legion of Superheroes, The Great Darkness Saga. So I make a joke in this one as Darkseid goes through a portal to oppose the Legion. In any case, he and the Servant travel to the kid, with Darkseid apparently diving through like he was expecting to land in a pool on the other end. However, much like the repeated use of La Pieta by comic book artists, this is actually an artistic reference, specifically the creation of Adam done by Michelangelo as part of the artwork in the Sistine Chapel. It's a pretty significant piece of art, and I really should have recognized it. Of course, my question is, why is he doing that? Why did the artist decide this should be the reference he was going for? La Pieta makes sense for holding a dead body and being sad. Darkseid isn't trying to create new life, he's just going through a boom tube. And it's not helped by the fact that God was, well, God, and you could imagine him floating like he is in the painting. In this, Darkseid looks like he's about to faceplant or that he tripped on the tube or something. So yeah, he may not be diving into a pool like I joked in the episode, but that doesn't explain what the hell he was doing other than paying homage to a great piece of art. I mean, it could have been deliberate on Darkseid's part, just go for the creation myth angle to prove he is a god, before forgetting that he couldn't fly. Darkseid is! Number 3. From Black Panther Volume 4, number 1 to 6. So, in Reginald Hudlin's Black Panther book, we got to see Wakanda in probably their most technologically advanced form to date. During a conversation about hunting down the supervillain Claw, one of T'Challa's advisors puts out the idea that they could get more support from Western nations if maybe they made it a condition of limited trade. Maybe even give him up in exchange for the cure for cancer. Another advisor scoffed at this, that they'd just turn it into a weapon. I, in turn, was baffled how a medical cure could in any way be used as a weapon. However, as viewers pointed out, since we don't know what their cure for cancer is, there are ways that it could be weaponized. Some form of nanites, a special kind of laser, a unique energy field. Depending on what it is, the cure could be just as deadly and dangerous as the disease. And they're right. Such methods of curing cancer could indeed be potentially weaponized to do more harm than good. I was wrong, especially as a nitpicking nerd who does consider these kind of ridiculous ideas, especially in superhero comics, to not even think of them. Still though, as mentioned, we don't know what it is, so it's entirely possible it's just some kind of special chemical compound or medication. And unless they're force-feeding and choking people with anti-cancer meds, I doubt that's gonna be a problem. And I'd still argue that just because something can be weaponized doesn't mean you shouldn't share it. Hell, if Wakanda is worried more about the health of its citizenry versus the governments who would abuse the technology, why not offer cancer treatment on some kind of remote island or artificial platform? Not a perfect solution, obviously, but boom, you're helping people without sharing the details of it. Or have it be in Wakanda itself, if you don't mind. Withholding a cure, regardless of its potential for danger, is just a signal that you're okay with thousands dying from something that you can fix. And that still kind of makes you the real villains. Number 2, from The Amazing Spider-Man, number 129. This was just last month at the time of this video's release, and it's a joke in poor taste that I need to really apologize for. After narrowly getting away from the Punisher and the Jackal, Spidey crashes through a window into an office area. I was confused because the artwork specifically showed a bunch of women in the office without men, as well as a phone getting knocked off the desk. Combined with the narration mentioning female hysteria, I figured that meant it was an all-female office, and combined with the phone, I joked that maybe it was a phone sex hotline. Truth is, it was just a cheap joke. I make them all the time, but it was kinda sexist to assume that an all-female office is a phone sex hotline. This is another one of those weird changes in culture throughout history thing, but all-women office areas like that were not unheard of in the 70s. It's nothing that unusual to see, and I should not have been so ready to just go for the cheap joke on something like that. Especially when I was already trying to call out the sexist narration about female hysteria. It didn't make me a better ally, it just made me look like a hypocrite. And for that, I am sorry. We can all at least agree that the narration was awful though, right? Yeah, women, why get so hysterical because a guy in a costume smashes through an upper story window? And the number one, yet another mistake I made on Atop the Fourth Wall is from the Titans number 1 to 25. In recent years, I've made a very conscious effort to stop being super aggressive towards creators. Unless they're, like, racist or bigoted. I might say that a creative team did something stupid, or point out a repeated pattern of awful work, like Rob Liefeld, even in this video, or even point out what blindingly idiotic things they say sometimes, but I've really, really tried to stop wishing direct harm on creators. It's wrong. Always. Toxic fandom is a real thing, and we've seen it. Whether it's about a movie people didn't like, or a creative direction that some disagree with, or etc. Wish them off the work they're on. That's fine. If someone is a bigot, you don't want them in a position where people will listen to what they have to say, or make it seem like you're rewarding them in spite of their awful beliefs. But when it comes to physical harm, there really is a line that needs to be drawn. One of my favorite go-tos over something awful is, I hope you step on a Lego brick, because that's a self-inflicted injury that, while annoying and painful, you recover from, and ultimately it's the fault of the person who did it for not looking or not having lights on to see, etc., etc. But I've wished worse on people before. I'm almost certain that at one point I said, I hope you die in a fire, or something like that for a creator, although admittedly I can't recall a specific instance. It's wrong. It's awful. Death wishes on people over friggin' comic books are wrong. Wishing torture over comic books, or frankly any reason really, is wrong. So recently I've been putting together compilation videos of particular series I've reviewed on YouTube. One big 3-hour video having all of the Marvel reviews and whatnot, that kind of thing. People seem to like them. However, when putting together one with the Titans number 1 to 25 video, I came across this. A grown-up Leanne, and I just remembered that this future will never happen because of Cry for Justice. So I hope whoever made that decision gets salt poured into their eyes. Yeah, this is my formal apology to whoever that was, my fans, and anyone else. It's not the worst thing I could have said, and I didn't name anyone specifically, although my memory made me think I had wished this on Andrew Helfer for his work on the Titans number 26 to 50, but it's wishing harm on someone in a very direct, very torturous way, and it was wrong. I am sorry, and I hope I can prove that I'm better than that. And that's it for this show in 2020. I can't promise that 2021 will be any better than this year was, but I can say that I'm going to try to do my best to not have as many mistakes. And I'm going to try to continue to entertain and give you all the content you subscribe to me for. May you all have a happy new year and a bright future. When we return, let's start things off with something different. A comic book combined with a record, with the Star Trek book and record set, Dinosaur Planet.
Sitting on my couch reviewing comics.
By the way, people were upset about the threat you made against me.
Anus! You replaced all my ponies with these stupid beanie babies!
You're not stupid.
I will put these up your butthole! Where's my Pinkie Pie? Where's my Miracle Dash?
Okay. Oh, jeez. That hit me right in the face.
Oh my god, are you okay?
Yep.
Oh my god! I'm so sorry!
What I do for my art.
I am so sorry!
See, this is what I was afraid of throwing that.
I love you!
Hello my friends, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notifications on new video releases. If you'd like to support future videos, you can check out my Patreon or purchase a t-shirt via Teespring or Shark Robot. Thanks for watching!